Hey, it's Vanessa from CraftyGemini.com, and today's tutorial is on how to make a baby bib, just like this one. We'll actually be working on the exact project that you see here. Here's another example of a girl bib that I made. And this little flower embellishment you see here, in another tutorial, I'll be showing you all how to make that out of felt. But the one we're going to get started on is this one. And let me take this off real quick. This one I included a snap closure. Okay, but you don't have to use a snap closure if you don't have a snap pliers or press. You can also attach hook and loop tape. So something like Velcro, just make sure you attach the hook to one side and the loop to the other so they overlap like that. But let's get started on making this little double-sided baby bib. So this is our bib, and as you can see, this is the pattern that I used to make this. I'm going to include a link to this pattern so that you all be able to replicate exactly what we have here. If you don't want to use the pattern that I'm providing for you, feel free to just grab one of your baby's bibs, fold it in half down the center like this, put it on a sheet of paper, and just trace it around, leaving a little bit of extra space like you see here for a seam allowance, and you'll be able to make your own. Okay, as you can see, it's exactly the half. I did that on purpose so that I can make sure that the bib is completely symmetrical, alright? So it matches on both sides. So this is the pattern we'll be using. Now let's start with our fabric. Here I have some fabric that I made my little boy some pants from. So I like to preserve all my fabric, and I use all my scraps in other projects. Now for this particular project, you see that I have a sign here that says place on fold. This side of the pattern of the bib needs to be placed on a fold. However, if you look here, this is cut because that's where I cut a previous pattern from. This is also cut, and these are the selvages. So I have no folded edge. What I do in order to preserve fabric and to be as efficient as possible is that I'll fold my fabric this way and create my own fold, like you see here. Now I'll place this on the fold, okay? And I'm going to do this twice because I need two pieces. Remember, we said that the bib is double-sided, okay? So we'll place it there, place this. You see this is the fold, and that's where I'm lining this up with. Now you can either pin this in place, the actual pattern piece, and then cut around it with a pair of scissors, or you can take, here I have a chalk pencil, and I'll just mark around my pattern piece, leaving myself a mark basically of where to cut. Okay, so I'm going to do this and cut out two pieces, and then I'll meet you back here. Here you see I cut one piece out already. There it is. Put that to the side, and now I need to do the exact same thing again. Take your fabric, flip it over just enough to fit your pattern piece. Place this edge again on the fold that you just created. Mark around it and cut out again. Here are our two pattern pieces cut out. Now we're ready to pin them in place so we can stitch them together. Remember, we're going to stitch with pretty sides touching. So here's a pretty side of my fabric, and the same here. I'm going to turn this one onto the other one so that both pretty sides are touching each other. Place it where it should be. And now we're just going to pin this in place. Okay, matching up the raw edges as best you can. And just pin all the way around. As you see here, I've pinned the entire bib together. My next thing to do is to mark about a 3 to 4 inch opening so that I'll be able to flip it inside out when I'm done stitching. What you want to do when you're choosing where to leave that opening is to look around and find a straight edge, meaning you're not going to want to leave an opening on any of these curved edges because it was going to be too difficult for you to stitch that close, and this will just save you a lot of time and headaches. So I'm going to choose this chunk I have right here. It's a straight line, and what I tend to do is just mark it. This chalk pen is white. I'm just going to use a pen so that it can show up better on camera. And mark it with something just so that you remind yourself as you're stitching all the way around when you get here not to stitch. Okay, you have to leave it open. So this is the line that I marked to make sure that I leave it completely unstitched. Whenever you have a line like this marked on your fabric, you want to start at the bottom of the line. That way I'm going to come down, go all the way around the bib, and when I come to the end, I'll stop right here. And therefore that exact space will be unstitched. So I'll start down here. You want to remember to back tack. That means take a couple of back stitches if your machine has that option, okay? Now I'm using the edge of my foot as a guide. You just want to take all those curves nice and slow, especially if you're a beginner. Don't be afraid to stop. If you need to stop to fix your fabric and make sure it's in the correct position before you start stitching, go ahead and do that. I'm going to stitch all the way around. So I'm coming around the corner to the last bit. And as you can see, I'm coming up on this line again. So I'll stop before I get to it and take a few back stitches. Now there's going to be 3 different cuts that you'll be doing on the edge here. Okay, we still haven't flipped it inside out. What you want to do on the outer edge is to trim as close to the seam line as you can get. That's what you want to do on the outer edge, okay? Except for the line where we marked here, you want to leave the fabric because you'll be flipping that inside. I'll show you in a bit. But leave the fabric excess here. Do not trim that down, okay? Then we're still on the outside curve here, so let me trim that close. Now, when you get to the inside curves in the neckline, you want to make sure that this folds out neatly and lays flat. So what you want to do here is clip the fabric. Just like this, close to the seam line, but make sure you don't clip those stitches. So just clip close all on the inside area, on the inside curves. And do that. Okay? Let me do it to the other part here. And you want to do these notches a little close together, because if they're too far apart, it won't work as well. This will allow the fabric to stretch out on that curve and lay flat when you flip it inside out. Now that I'm done trimming close to the seam line on the outside of my bib, making sure to leave the excess fabric here where we drew the line, and then clipping making all these notches on the inside curve of the neckline, the next thing to do is to flip your bib inside out. I like to go all the way to a corner, stick my thumb in the corner, pinch it with my pointer, and turn it inside out, okay? That makes me get those corners a lot neater. There's one. I'll continue to flip the whole thing out just like that. Here's the bib flipped inside out, but as you can see, it's not the neatest bib, okay? The next step to do is, this is where our hole is. You want to tug at that like this and fold in that excess fabric. That's why it's important that that stay there, or else it's going to be tricky for you to fold these edges in. The more fabric you have there, the easier it is. So I'll fold them under so that the edge is now folded and flush with the rest of the bib, just like that. And you're going to press now with an iron, okay? Roll it out with your fingers, make sure that that seam is right down the center so it stays nice and neat, and press all the way around your bib. Your next step is to top stitch around your entire bib, and what that's going to do is that's going to hold this opening closed, okay? What that means is I'm going to be stitching with a straight stitch very close to the edge on top of the entire thing to hold these 2 pieces of the fabric together. So I'm just going to start anywhere here and just start stitching close to the edge and all the way around the entire bib. I'm coming right back around to the end to where I began, and I want to go over those stitches and take a few back stitches just to secure those stitches in place. And that's it. So here's the finished bib on my son, and just like the first one that I showed you all at the beginning of the video, I attached a snap to it. But you can also attach hook and loop. So like Velcro, you would just attach the hook part of it to one side and the loop to the other, so they cross like that and overlap so that they match up correctly. And here's the other one that we did before that we showed you for our girl. And this little felt embellishment, I'm going to show you all in a different tutorial how to do that. Okay? So there are your baby bibs. Enjoy.